I'm going to talk a bit about, indeed, my projects, my occupation during, my daily life. It flows one into another, and I will guide you through it. But the idea is to talk about climate in a different way, how to shape, our home, future world, kind of. I'm not sure if I do it the right way. I try to just make my living with changing little things and observing and playing a lot. But first, observing. Last year in February, I suddenly saw blossom flowers. I don't know, it wasn't normal. I spotted them as I tend to look out for things that are not normal. And it was February, early February. I saw blossom flowers. It made me happy. I shouldn't be, or should I be happy when the blossom flowers arrive early? Then in May, again, blossom flowers. The light doesn't serve them, but they were beautifully pink. So I said, okay, the world is normal. They are there in May. But then, a little bit earlier now, in November, they came back. These are the same trees. I spotted them. I instantly put them on Instagram, and I said, okay, something is going on. And then now, just now, again, the same tree blossomed again. Something special was going on. I don't know. Climate. Something is changing, and we are maybe doing something with it. I come from Hasselt, so these blossom flowers, they are not subtropical or something. Hasselt is a place where now a lot of rain and the same degrees as here is going on. I like to look around a lot. I like the stars. I like the moon. I like the clouds. I like ice cream, too. A lot of ice cream. Every season I like ice cream, and I'm a specialist in, actually I'm only specialist in sprinkles. The rest is just, vague, vague stuff. Before I start, showing a little bit of my projects, I can talk a little bit about myself. I was born somewhere else, in Chile, back in '73. And that wasn't a nice period there. So not just because of that, my parents and my grandfather was just a Belgian. We came back to Belgium, and I grew up here. It gives you a little bit of an outside look on things. Most of you guys who are here now probably have the same. Brussels is maybe an ideal city for this, to have an outside view on things, to look at things and not from within, but from outside, think that is going on like this, but I should, maybe it should go, in a different way. It molded me. I was living in a little village, in need for something more creative. And I found it in architecture, what I thought, was architecture. But I was 16, so it couldn't be architecture. It was architectural drawing. But I realized it when I was only, studying it. Then afterwards, I tried architecture because I had a palette of dreams, being from fashion design, from car design, architecture. I didn't realize yet what graphic design was. 2 years architecture was enough to realize my chemistry and my statistics, weren't so strong. My mini sculptures of the architectural projects that was, what I wanted to do. That was what I liked to do. So I switched to graphic design. I studied it. I met Manon, my partner. She is here today. And then we found a work, after graphic design at the same place. It was something, a multidisciplinary environment. That somehow, that together with my dreams of, wanting to do a lot of stuff at the same time, kind of, shaped us. The free thinking of disciplines. We came in an environment that was mainly interior design, exhibition design. It was called Crino, by the way. And there we entered from a graphic design point of view, and we sort of, organically started crossing over in disciplines and doing projects from a concept. Also a very strong learning school, actually, to start from the story of a project. After a while, it was inside us that we wanted to do our own thing. Being in a company that had over 50 people, the personal aspect from organization towards the actual production, the personal aspect we were missing. And so Hectica was born. Hectica, now 2005 we started it, was a company that reacted on that 50 people company. We were with two, we were multidisciplinary. We wanted to do the same feeling of starting a project with the questioning of, what was the project, what was the question, and then from there on move towards possible solutions that maybe weren't obvious. The way we entered it was indeed concept-driven, multidisciplinary, and so we had a little bit of trouble to selling, the idea. What was Hectica about? Yes, it was graphic design, so people were coming to us saying, okay, I need an identity, I just need a logo, nothing else. And then we were starting to, question what he or she actually needed. So in the end, we said, okay, let's divide, several sections, glued and bound, magazines, books. We love to do books, This is a book to show the tactile feeling we love. We worked a lot for Lee jeans, like the European or the global, but this was a Swedish project where in the stores in Sweden they wanted to activate the visitors or maybe also the visual merchandisers. And so we made a book like 50 by 70 centimeters of several sections made of fabric, the denim fabric. We tied them up ourselves on a summer, on our driveway, just silk screen printing, binding, having blue fingers. That's what we like. We like the tactile, but we like to be also hands-on in our projects. The idea was that you had an empty denim book, and you had all these markers or textile markers, and that you could just make your own book. That was the idea. We love this project. Another book, it's fragmented, but that's okay. There's, the book is in one piece, but technology. This book was done 2 years ago, I think, yes. It was an interesting project because a research team of the university and Hasselt, Diepenbeek, and Leuven came to us and they said, we have been researching culture for maybe, 2 years now, and we have a stack of, really vague conclusions and theories, and some are interesting, so we should do something with it. And then we said, okay, let's read it, let's look for a story in it, and we'll come back to you. It was a book, because we love doing books, so every project becomes almost a book. But the idea was, maybe I can go back. Yeah. This was the back cover. The idea was culture is me. You know, I have my culture. I just told you where I come from. So that's my culture. But let's say I talk to you, you know, what is your culture? That's already ×2. Then if I travel, you know, I came to Brussels, the culture is, you know, multiplied, and it becomes culture to the third power. This, you know, dividing, the segmenting of culture is, you know, something we should structure somehow. And, you know, these researchers had these theories of how to educate culture, because that was the book about, the theory about. They were educating teachers that were going to teach culture. So we divided the book in 3 parts. One was the theoretical part, but because there were so many storylines, we said, okay, we'll fragment it again, because we don't want to read the book like a, you know, one story. We want it to be fragmented. So I picked the book up and I'll just read one bit. I'll turn the book, I'll read another book, another part, etc. That was one part. Really hard to read, but therefore also really good to read, you know, if you have only a few minutes of time. The second part, we invited 3 writers. We said this story, you know, this fragmented story needs something more concrete and something out of, you know, out of the box. To understand the story, we maybe, the story of the triptych, we maybe need to make a triptych of, you know, 3 storytellers, each telling their own story. You know, one, a personal story. Christophe de Schoovre is a writer. He was invited to tell a story about a rapper, you know. Can't remember, LL Cool J. It was LL Cool J. Because we started talking and said, okay, from all the artists, maybe a rapper is the most egocentric kind of person. You know, he looks in the mirror and needs to pump himself up, and you know, he needs to be very much aware of his person. So that was a good example of this storytelling. The other person was Stephanie Duval. She wrote a story about the traveling, you know, traveling, as she is kind of cosmopolitan. So she told about this, about the traveling. Another one was Jan Verbank. He wrote a story about something very typical. I'll say it in Flemish, the kermiskoers, you know. And in the end of the book, because that was the thing also, it needed to be a do book, you know, theoretical, good, storytelling, good, but then let's get to it. And there were some really exercises. Inside, outside. Hectica is also about finding projects that need an identity, but maybe turn into something more. Inside, outside, we have this background. We are not specialists, so that means we know how to shape interiors and work together more. Work together with interior architects and to shape from a graphic point of view interiors, and the other way around too. There was an office that needed protection, visual protection from the outside and also from the inside, because they needed just work. You know, they needed, so it became a kind of an organic texture on the outside and very slick silver lining to give the identity. This was a shop, a vintage shop. So together with a really nice team, this shows me the other part of projects we like. It was a really intimate project. The owner, Caroline, then the builder, Luc. We worked together to find pieces, molded, you know, pieces of wood that had been in the canal of a ship that had been sinking, little, you know, bits of furniture that we reshaped, and we turned it into a really forward-looking shop, but still, you know, with a backwards-looking identity that was in Hasselt. Name, number, we do identities. This was a technology for hotels, so they could, evaluate, data coming in. They liked the idea, but they used something else. But we liked the organic, shape to it. Look was a magazine. We like doing these logos where, being hands-on again, thinking of the new and the old. These are old branches together with new branches, showing a magazine's logo. That was about that, feeling good about the old and the new. Eureka was something also illustrates also the other part we like to do. We like to clients that come to us with nothing, with an idea, but not a name yet. This was a project to stimulate kids, to get into science and find stuff. Octopus was an identity we did for a sub-brand of Crown Plaza in Antwerp. It was a sort of pool, but an event pool. And we needed to find something like a name that would trigger it. And we got the luck to work together with the wonderful photographer of underwater photography, Zina Holloway, which she does this amazing photography. And drawn shot, that's the fourth part in our Hectica thing. And that makes us go to Instagram more, because it could show more portfolio. But in Instagram, we actually play a lot more with this drawn or photographed or doodled bit. Manon Watley, she owns this flying stuff tag, and this illustrates her world a little bit. She photographs flying stuff in our backyard, and she was nominated recently one of 70's best Instagrammers with these shots, which are amazing, and they illustrate, capturing the architecture of a fluid. It's simple, but it's, it's slick. This was will be produced in Bordeaux for a gallery, and this is just wine. That's her world. I love, how she captures this flying stuff. My world, I don't use hashtags. So I doodle, and this series will illustrate in a quick way how I have a problem. I can't keep up one style. I start, let's say, 2 weeks ago or a few weeks ago with this, and then I do a series. It's only 3, but then, it started changing immediately, and the figures, kind of move towards these figures. Some organic creatures come behind it, octopus kind of. They become worms. I get a problem because it becomes kind of erotic, and then I need to stop, and I just need to shift to another style. This is what I do daily. I try to express and just become calm again from other projects with these doodles. Instagram has led us also to collaborations. I have a wonderful collab with two girls in Germany, Kimberly and Sandra, and we just doodle with our pictures. We set out some collab challenges every Saturday or every weekend, and then we go out in the city and we try to capture, white. That's the theme, white, and we see a guy passing by and totally dressed in white. The idea is to see things that we wouldn't normally see. That triggers me. The theme can be any theme, but it triggers me to see things that aren't usually there. A few years ago, Manon and Stephanie, we started the idea of collaborating more. The idea started in one way, but it turned into another. We are flexible. How it goes, we'll see. Things I like a lot. It was an idea of Manon that she wanted to show what the things she liked a lot. But then we became 3 after a lot of talks, and then you know, it became what it became. Our first shoot we did together with some nice friends in an old warehouse, and we started just painting on the model Loami Goedgeburg. He is a star now, but we picked him up very early. He's a wonderful kid. And doing things, collaborating, joining, you know, asking people, and that was the beauty of it. Just sending out a mail through, you know, connections throughout the world, saying, you know, what if we would, you know, shall we? That was the idea. You know, the first series were a shoot around Loami, showing expressions, you know, of fear or jealousy, you know, really abstract, but then playing, you know, with him and playing with the setting. Later on, you know, it started evolving into something more, more organic, you know, through Instagram, meeting people, or just, you know, through blogs and just writing people and saying, hey, this coming Sunday, you know, would you be interested in doing something together? You know, what? We'll see. You know, you have these talents. I can do these things. Let's join. This was a project with Jonna, a friend from Sweden. She had a nickname, Pandik, so we made the Papa Pact. My name is Pablo, so the Papa Pact. It was the idea of a simple presse-papier of the weekdays, but if you would turn them around, we would, in Swedish language, English language, Dutch language, find better words for Wednesday and Monday. The terrible Monday would get another name. Simple thoughts, you know, but globally. Before we knew it, we were just, you know, shaping our world with people we hardly knew, and, you know, we're becoming friends. This was a collab with a girl, a graphic designer from Karachi in Pakistan. I had the idea of asking her, later on I will tell about the festival, for asking for her for the festival to do something for the book or something. But we started looking, observing, and making a collage of our two cities. So you have here, you know, you can see it maybe, some people outside making tapestry or something in the city of Hasselt, you know, palm trees of Karachi, the typical, eclectic style of Belgian houses, the so-called ugly houses, but then together with the Karachi houses and palm trees, it became something really, you know, organic. There's no fear of failing, you know. Every result was, you know, a visual result was, you know, beautiful, and the success was in the establishment of the collab, the talking that was going on. Another nice collab was done with Han Chung from Seattle. She has this wonderful project, Red and Hungry, where she collects worldwide pens, pencils, little notebooks, but in a way that it becomes a really nice, collector's item. We both loved the World Series, and we started thinking, let's make our own, you know, fields. Let's make a lot of, you know, different options, and a lot of play rules came out of this. But another series was also, let's make our own team shirts, because we were just talking about during the, you know, some match, we were talking about the ugly shirts they had, and then we started making our own shirts. They turned out even uglier, but we were just playing. That was important. Playing. I told you about collaborating. I told you about observing. We are in a city of Hasselt, not here in Brussels, nor in Antwerp. A few years ago, in 2012, Manon and I, and Dan and Deborah, who have their own gallery in Hasselt, both, you know, doing graphic design or design in our own city. We started searching for ways to collaborate. You know, first there were attempts to do some contests in another city or some projects. You know, there were tests. We were testing how we would collaborate. And then we went to Barcelona, to OFF Festival, and we also had been to Integrated in Antwerp. These were kind of congress with a lot of people, 4,500 or 1,000 people joining in for lectures. And we had this hunger to do something in our own city. So we said, hey, let's make a festival of our own and react to what we have seen in the past. This gives you a
Hello, I'm Trevor Jackson in Hasselt at the Beyond the Ground Festival.
This is 2013, you know. We made our own festival in the city. First edition, and invited international artists, designers to come and join us for 1 month in the city. Do exhibitions, installations, workshops, shop-in-shops. This wonderful collective from Copenhagen who had this play type shop. They came and made their own first shop in our city. Some local graphic designers made some installations.
We had sign painters. Hugo. I'm an artist, designer, and art director working out of New York City.
My name's Paul Jenkins. I'm a London-based designer and art director.
I'm Rita. I'm Portuguese. I'm an artist. I'm a fucked up kid, and I like to write and talk about myself a lot.
We're Niklas Ekholm and Chang Myung Lee from Kokoroit Moi from Helsinki. We're focusing on brand identities and different kinds of print and digital applications.
The video is kind of fragmented, but you get an impression.
From Rotterdam, and with the three of us we have the letterproeftuin.
I'm Peter de Rooij from Typo Zero, and we're a small Brussels-based letterpress company.
Hi, I'm Sergio del Puerto, and I'm the founder and creative director at Zero Cat.
My name is Rasmus Siepveld. I'm from Copenhagen. I'm here because I have a branding agency in Copenhagen called E-Types, and also I've been developing a new brand called Playtype.
My name is Macbeth. I'm an illustrator, and I draw black and white pictures, and only black and white, for pleasure and sometimes for work as well.
It was a bad impression of our festival in a short video. But the idea was to show graphic creativity. So not graphic design, not graphic arts, but something that binds everything together. Our first slogan was something like Festival for the Joy and the graphic joy and creativity, you know. Because we had trouble in determining who was doing what. One artist from New York that had made some typefaces was also making a short video and was also making some installation and interior design, you know. So it became just creativity, graphic creativity. The idea was to form a festival that had two options. One was 1 month of outdoor exhibitions in the city. We had several routes focusing on the individual entrepreneur in the city. You know, people that had a creative shop were struggling to, you know, find a space. There we would have installations or window paintings. The other route was showing the empty stores in the city. Any city, you know, anywhere has the same trouble. The big, you know, chains are biting off bits of the creative small spaces in the city. So the creative entrepreneurs have trouble finding, you know, their space. These empty spaces we claimed, and we did some workshops or pop-up shops, etc. The third route was, again, to highlight this bit. A lot of beautiful old buildings were being torn down, and the last witness were possibly street art. So we invited street artists to have a final, you know, graphic art made on the building before it got torn down. We indicate, we don't, we reshape, the thoughts. That's it. The idea was to make a festival every 2 years, and then because the success, we had, personal success that first edition, and then we've picked up some little notes. People were saying we don't have this in our city. For instance, Niklas Ekholm from Kokoro said this. We don't have this in Helsinki. Okay, something triggered us, and in 2014, last year, we did the same thing in Helsinki. Exhibitions and also lectures, because that was the second part, a 2-day indoor festival, not just lectures, but workshops, performances, interacting with people in the audience, having a workshop, doing things. So we said, okay, let's go to Helsinki. We met these beautiful people there, and we had this amazing exhibitions in the central station, where, I don't know, 50,000 or 200,000 people per day pass by. That was a scale boost towards our own city, where people were passing a little independent shop, at 8 people per day or something. So it made us think towards the 3rd edition, coming up now, May 1 and 2, to refocus on public spaces. Public spaces in our city are the City Museum, library, the former prison, now university. We started talking to these little governments or bigger governments and institutions, and we had the idea, okay, let's claim the city, but now from the angle, the perspective of public spaces. A week before the actual indoor festival, starting April 24, we will start exhibitions in the city again as a warm-up. Do some sign painting, street arts, etc., exhibitions, collaborate with universities, with other festivals. The idea is to make it, one big collaboration. Some artists will come and do a lecture or an interview. Raymond Lemstra is a beautiful artist. Geneviève from Paris. Werklig is a beautiful agency from Finland, in Helsinki, who has done an excellent collab with us back there in Helsinki too. Jeremyville, maybe the only one from the United States, as our focus this year is mainly on European artists. Snask, crazy people from Stockholm, and ZDZ, Dasha Seljakova, yes. I met this girl through a collab, through things I like a lot. We both look into things on the street. So, signs saying stop, don't enter, little, typography that has been torn down by the years. And she turns it into this wonderful fashion collection. Street graphics turning into a fashion collection. Wonderful story. Our own Rizon Parrain doing wonderful stuff now. And also a beautiful story. He went with us to Helsinki to meet also with his future agent, Pekka, a Finnish agent, and he being represented by them, a little bit by our festival, we say. We liked it. May 1 and 2. And the campaign is done also by a local from Ghent, Studio Bam Bam, who's doing crazy stuff with, objects, found objects, I guess. Can we shape our future? What role can creativity play? It can. I started by not using the word design, because I think, what do we need here? We need a lot of hunger. Hunger to look into everything we see. We don't need to. I think we don't need to specialize. We just need to roll into everything we can and just have everything we want. We don't need to be afraid of things. I love one exercise my dad told me when I was a kid, was to make a doodle that was, horrible. And then the other person would have to make something out of this. It was just a little game we did on the table, but it learned, maybe it became my way of designing or creating, having something existing and reacting on it. It's obvious we need to enjoy what we do because it's 24/7. And maybe, to answer that climate the question, how do I handle, this question of how can I reshape my world? I question, I observe, I question, I dream a lot, and I play. And playing is sometimes found funny because when you are being asked, what did you do today? People say, okay, from 9 to 5 I had my job. And then I have to say I played a lot. I have a Lego set on my table. I have my pen and paper. And only after all this playing, observing, and dreaming, I love dreaming, it turns into the act itself. And then a little bit of it is design, a little bit, because the craftsmanship, working together with craftsmen, that is, the full picture. Establishing a festival is creating. Establishing a design agency or a design project is creating, because we start with the question and we end with the doing, with the established product, what it is. That's more or less my world. It's creating. And to end, because Carmen is getting nervous, last week when I came to Brussels, I like to look around, and I saw this wonderful building near the Palace of Justice, and it had these cracks, in the painting. And I looked closer, and yeah, it was painting that had been cracked because of temperature, rain, etc. I said, okay, I like this. Then, one street to the right, there was this, I think it was an antique shop. When I looked, there was, something similar. But then I looked closer and I saw it's faux. Like you have faux bois, it was faux crack. It was painted on a wall to give an impression of cracks in the paint. And then looking closer, I saw cracks in the faux crack. So my story became one, and that's it. Thank you.